of interest may explode in all this splendor. No, jokes apart, I perfectly understand that the last person in every session, particularly this one, which is going to speak, is probably the most hated of the session because he's the only one that stands between you and the food in the other hotel. And being at 1 o'clock, it's nearly time to go away and things to other issues. But I try to be as fast as I can because most of the topic that I would like to cover, the title of my paper is Bridging the Sea, Human Rights and Supernatural Limits in Tax Law, is quite similar to Hungary because the Italian situation is quite similar to the situation they have in Spain. But I would like to tell you just a few words on the title of the paper, because the idea to bridge a sea is the idea that I had a month ago when me and Yossi tried to give a title to the entire meeting that we were organizing, and which turned out to be different, constitutional, supernatural limitations, so very academic. But this one erupted in my mind because when I was working at the seminar, it happened to me to listen to the television, and I don't know why, in that case, there were our current Prime Minister, Mr. Berlusconi, which was launching the idea of the bridge between Calabria, the southernmost part of Italy, and the island of Sardinia. And say, well, we are about to invest billions and billions of euro in Sicily because the idea is that we want to bridge a sea with a great bridge or something like that, which was fantastic, both for the idea, which is ambitious, and because, believe it or not, but the experts say that Sicily is slowly moving southward. It's a matter of centimeters every year because, as far as I understood, Italy and Sicily are not on the same plate of Earth. So there is a slow movement, which make exactly, which makes incredibly happy the people voting for the Northern League, the separatist party, say, well, we have to wait and they will go away, but put in terror all the people living in Malta because they say, oh my God, they are coming. And so the idea to bridge a sea, putting together island and earth which are slowly moving is quite provocative.
Keep it anchored in.
Exactly, probably. That's the second purpose probably of the bridge. But that, I think, is quite helpful for us as well to give an idea of what of the things that we are doing now. Incredible, but we can try. Thinking about the topic that I'd like to cover, I would like to focus a little more to the Italian situation rather than what I did in the paper, because I read through all the pages and nearly all the papers delivered in this session, and probably the one, I liked all of them, the one who impressed me most was the one by David Elkins, with the introduction of the American system, when he said, well, there is a problem, all the problem that you face on the constitutionality of taxation, and there is a point where you say, well, probably a progressive taxation would be unconstitutional, redistributive taxation could be unconstitutional according to the American standard. And I was surprised of that. It was very interesting for me because under our constitution, which is a so-called hard constitution, the taxation must be progressive and must be redistributive. Theoretically speaking, in Italy we could say no taxation without redistribution, or no taxation without progressivity of taxation. That's the ultimate goal that our constitutional father written on our fundamental charter. Of course, the reality in Italy is full of contradiction, as in many other aspects, because the only real progressive tax that we have is the income tax. And there are papers and studies that clearly demonstrate that the Italian taxation system is not progressive any longer. We can't, or probably we don't want to redistribute wealth within the country. The program was ambitious at the very beginning. We were thinking about two kinds of redistribution. One, quantitative. Take away money on income from those who have more and give to those who have less. Of course, like I think all around the world, in every country which accepts this principle. The other was qualitative. Take away from those who earn, we could say, passive income, and give to those who have labor income. No matter the amount of it, to a certain extent, but this was another kind of redistribution. So you have to tax more those who have had higher income and much, much more those who have income from investments, from capital, dividend, and so forth. The reality, of course, is different for a number of reasons, which falls outside the possibility of the state. Just to give you a couple of examples, taxation on interest and capital investment in Italy are currently taxed with two rates, 12.5% in case of bonds or long-term obligations, or in the worst case, 27% capital, passive income, etc. While if you are labor income, both in a company, in a firm, or whatever, your top rate can be up to 43% to the state, plus some we call them surcharges that you have to pay to the region, to the county, or to the municipality, etc. So the top rate in our current system can climb up to nearly 50% of your income. That's the situation. That's the situation right now. But the point is that there's a contradiction in this respect. If you read the Constitution, you say, "Well, that's fantastic. You try to put the money or put income where it should be," but the reality, unfortunately, or luckily, depends on the point of view, is different. And another aspect, fundamental aspect, is the reserve law, no taxation without representation. But this is an aspect which is common with many other, and I think every other country across Europe. Theoretically speaking, or constitutionally speaking, only the Italian Parliament is allowed to pass law involving taxes. But there are two examples on the contrary. The first is the EU. They pass regulation, they pass directive, which are ultimately approved by the government of every country. So if VAT is what it is, if customs are what they are, and so and so and so, it's not because of the parliament, neither the Italian nor the European one, but because it's a decision of the executive power of all the countries. A unanimous decision in the case of direct taxes, but it does not involve the parliament. That's the first exception. And the second exception, in theory, is the fiscal federalism that we are entering into now. There is a number of regions in Italy which are, theoretically speaking, allowed to implement specific taxes for their purposes. Specific region, I mean Sardinia, Sicily, northern or South Tyrol, that is the region and the border between Italy and Austria, etc. For a number of reasons, historical, cultural, because there are minorities, but that's not important. But one of these region, Sardinia, actually tried two years ago to implement a specific tax was called the luxury tax, because the governor of Sardinia decided to levy a tax on the people affluent. We have villa near the seaside, which used to land on Sardinia with a private jet, because Sardinia is very popular across Europe as a place for holiday and for very important person, of course. And the Italian Constitutional Court considered that tax as unconstitutional because of discrimination, because of the lack of a general law allowing these kind of regions to introduce specific taxes for their purposes, and even in one case for a possible conflict with Article 43 of the treaty. And that was very important because it was the first case in the Italian experience where the Constitutional Court, not the Supreme Court, but the Constitutional Court, sent a case to the judges in Luxembourg. Because as far as I remember, until 2007, the Italian Constitutional Court always refused the priority of European Court of Justice. We, like the German, used to say, well, it's not a matter of hierarchy between the Constitution and EU. It's a matter that we are playing different games. We are playing rugby, they are playing American football. It's not a priority in this respect. But last year, at least, the Constitutional Court moved in that direction, and it is significant. And again, fundamental principle and taxpayers' rights. In Italy, there is another very important instrument of direct democracy, which is the referendum, which is quite popular, I think, in many countries across Europe, not in all of them, but in a lot of them. And in Italy, of course, if you are able to collect a certain number of signatures by citizen, you can put a referendum and ask for the abolition and the repeal of a specific act. You can do that whenever you want, for whatever reason, but for taxes. That's another feature which is written black and white on our constitution. The reason is quite obvious, but it gives you an idea of how the overall system is built up and on the trust that probably rightly or wrongly the founding father put on the Italian population. Another aspect why we were talking about human rights and fundamental principle 5 minutes ago. This is not a topic which must be underestimated, because generally speaking, we think about the questions that some colleagues of mine ask me is more or less like this. Well, fundamental rights are built up for more serious things than taxes, for protection of life, freedom, and so forth. Why on earth are you using fundamental rights on taxes? Well, because even in Italian is a good benchmark in this respect. If we move from the substantive aspect of taxation to the procedural one, we realize that, for instance, the activity of the tax police, which is in Italy is called Guard of Finance, Guardia di Finanza, which is actually part of the army. Just to give you an idea of the importance of the taxes. So they have rifles, they have machine guns, where they carry on inspection, but that's folklore probably. But the fact is that they are authorized to step into your firm or your business or your place where you're carrying on the activity without any authorization by the judicial authority. They can do all by themselves.
Yeah, authorized by the law.
Sorry?
Yeah,
but there's a law which allows them to
Yeah.
do that kind of inspection. But in most of the other cases, as far as the domicile is protected by the Constitution, or even the papers, the mails, for instance, you exchange with the other, are protected by the Constitution. And if the public prosecutor want to inspect your house or your communication with other, must ask to the judge an authorization for that. I think it's pretty much the same all around the world. It is a judge who has the power to balance the evidence collected and the possible infringement of fundamental rights. And it's the same in Italy, but for taxes. In that case, and it's written even in the Constitution, I don't remember if Article 13, but it's clearly written that the domicile is protected, cannot be violated, etc., but for fiscal or financial reasons, which taxes are part of financial reasons. And this is another significant. But there is one exception in this respect. When you carry on your business in a place, in a building, for instance, which is also your domicile, which is also your residence. It's quite common, particularly in the northern part of Italy. We have an incredible number of small and medium-sized enterprise, where at the first floor, the second floor, you have your business, for instance, and at the third floor, you live there with your family. More or less, the situation is like that. So, in those cases, of course, the danger is higher for the taxpayer, because the inspection is not in the place where you run your business, but in the place where you live with your family. So there could be even other persons which are not directly involved in your affair. And in that case, rules say, well, the Guard Finance or the Revenue Service can't do all by himself or itself, but must ask for the authorization, not of the judge, but of the public prosecutor. It's a public prosecutor. In Italy, we call them public minister, which is the man or general attorney, I don't know what the situation all around the world, that bring on the accusation in criminal procedure. He is the one who authorized the Guard of Finance or the Revenue Service to enter even into that place. And that's why in most of the cases in Italy, tax inspection is used as a device to collect evidence even for other purposes. because then it's not so easy for the taxpayer to go in front of the court and say, well, you can't use that evidence because it was collected according to a procedure which was not criminal but was taxed. So tax inspection, in most cases, has a sort of shortcuts, even for other non-purely fiscal purposes. And one of the possible countermeasures that are allowed today in our country is to use fundamental rights or to shift to another level of protection, as Hengel said before. You say, okay, the law in Italy is like that, but probably or possibly I can find a better solution somewhere else. In the European law, not so much, but the European Court of Justice, the European Court of Human Rights is good in that respect. There's a very interesting case, it's quite recent because it's dated 2008, the Ravon case. I mentioned it in a paper that I gave to Fernando some month ago, where the European Court of Human Rights extended Article 6 of the Convention, that is the due process clause, even to the procedure. So the right to be heard, the right to bring evidence, the right to have witnesses heard, it must be respected in front of the judge. But not only in front of the judge, but even before, when you are confronting your thesis with the revenue service. And if they don't allow you to bring evidence against them, then there is an infringement even on that stage that can impair the outcome of the inspection and entitle the taxpayer to compensation for that compensation. So this is a way in which we try to bring balance to a system which is clearly imbalanced in favor of the tax administration. So you could think, so if the situation is like that, why on earth in Italy there are so many tax evaders? I don't know, but probably there must be some ways and means to reach that. And the other aspect, the last one that I would like to bring to your attention on the importance of on the other way around, on the effect of not human rights in this case, but of the European law on taxation, because European law is a marvelous device to harmonization, to the protection of taxpayers, like Hengel told before, and so forth. But there is also very reasonable, recent, interesting case involving Italy, where the EU law worked the other way around, so to a certain extent in favor of the revenue service. The case was brought to the attention of the European Court of Justice because Italy, some years ago, I think 2003 or 2003, but implemented another tax amnesty. We are very skilled in that. Tax amnesty involving that if you pay a lump sum, then we won't inspect your income for the years before that. Just do that. Just pay an amount, and we close not one eye but both of them. That's it. There's an advantage for the revenue service, for the state, because in this way they are able to pick some money quickly. And also an advantage for the tax evaders, because they in this way they are sure that nobody will harm them any longer. But the problem in that case was that, as we were used to do, we proposed a tax amnesty for income taxes, and that's fine or not fine, always depends on the point of view, but even for VAT. And the question brought to the attention of the court was, can a state refuse to collect value-added tax, offering an alternative to the taxpayers? Because the answer is no, of course, but no, because I agree with you, but the solution is not so easy, because in that way, what is a tax amnesty turned out as an unfair competition instrument for the Italian business. Italian businesses can save taxes and so be more competitive on the market rather than the UK or the Netherlands and somewhere all around Europe, where it's even in some cases difficult to define what a tax amnesty is. It's not so easy to express the content of the rule. And so in that case, Italy was condemned and ordered to take the money back, or to inspect or to keep on working where the work has been left by the tax amnesty. I don't know what will be the real effect of the provision, because it's not so easy to go back and see whether who were tax evaders, etc. But that's significant because it's, I think, a very important case in which we can see how the European Court of Justice, EU law, works not always in favor of the tax evaders, but of the taxpayers, but even in some cases against them, which is, I think, we can agree on this point, that it worked against the taxpayer, but mainly against the tax evaders. So we can at least appreciate the outcome of the decision, at least in this respect. There could be many other, I think, points to focus or to discuss with you now, but it's nearly 1:30, so I would like to stop here and leave the floor for remarks, comments, or insult as far as I took so much time over before. Yes.
I have two questions and one difficult comment.